Let's talk about the most recent execution in the United States. His name was James Coddington, and he was executed in Oklahoma by way of the lethal injection. Now, first, let's talk about what James did to get on death row. So in March of 1997, James was on a cocaine bender, and he eventually ran out of money. So when he ran out of money, he went and robbed a local convenience store, but he didn't walk away with enough money. So then he said, how can I get more? And decided that he was going to go over to a co-worker's house that he was also friends with. He worked with, but he was also friends with him. His name was Albert. He was significantly older than James. He was 73 years old at the time. He had previously loaned Albert money. He had previously helped James cover some of the finances for his treatment when he was attempting to get sober. So James had a feeling Albert would loan him some money. So James goes over to Albert's house. They watch TV for a couple of hours, and then James asks him for $50. And at this time, Albert knew that James was using again, and Albert told James no and asked James to leave. That did not go well. James was not happy that Albert turned him down and saw a hammer on the kitchen counter as he was leaving Albert's house. So he picks up the hammer, beats Albert to death essentially, although he did not die right away, takes the money out of his pocket, which was about $525, leaves Albert's house and goes and robs more convenience stores. So as I said, Albert actually didn't die right away. He laid there bleeding for a while, and hours later, Albert's son found him, called 911. 911 got there. He was breathing, barely breathing, but still breathing. They took him to the hospital where he eventually died. Now, James was arrested. He was obviously sentenced to death, and his whole thing is, look, I'm not a cold-blooded killer. I was dealing with addiction and I made some mistakes, but I'm not some murderer. I let my disease take control, and that is not who I am. And now that I'm sober, now that I'm sitting in jail and I'm sober, I don't deserve to be put to death. And his attorneys argued on his behalf to the Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board just very recently, and essentially argued that James was born to addict parents who at a very young age introduced him to alcohol. Like, we're talking 3 years old. His dad would put liquor in James's baby bottle, and then he started sniffing fumes at, I think, age 12, something like that. So his attorney's argument was, look, he doesn't deserve to die. He had a really hard childhood. He was dealt a tough card. He made some mistakes because of it, but he's a different person now. He's sober, and he doesn't deserve to die. The Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board actually recommended 3-2 that his sentence be reduced. But just because the Pardon and Parole Board recommends a reduction in a sentence doesn't mean it's guaranteed, because it then has to go to the governor, and the governor has to either approve it or deny it. In this case, Governor Stitt denied the request, and the execution went forward as scheduled. Now, as I said, he was executed by way of the lethal injection, which in Oklahoma is a 3-drug cocktail. It starts with midazolam, and the second drug is vicuronium bromide. I probably butchered that. And the third drug is potassium chloride, which stops the heart. So as I've mentioned in other videos, the lethal injection protocol varies by state. Some states have 1 drug, some states have 2, 3, 4, really depends on the state. Oklahoma is one of those states that has a 3-drug cocktail, which is the nickname given for the protocol that has 3 drugs. As far as James's last words, he expressed his love for his family and his attorneys. He asked God to forgive him, and he also forgave Governor Stitt for denying the reduction in his sentence. His last meal was 2 cheeseburgers, 2 crunchy fish sandwiches, 2 large fries, and a large soda.